Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero here, and you're listening to my Tour Coach podcast. Tour Coach podcasts come from my stories, the interviews, my roundtable discussions, the day-to-day interaction with the people that I teach in my journey in the game of golf, whether it's tour players that I teach or tour players that have fired me, or heck, it's other teachers that I think the world of and respect, or it's mental coaches, performance coaches, or hey, maybe it's just people that have made an indelible mark on my teaching. Whatever it is, I hope this helps you learn more about the playing, the teaching, or enjoying the great game of golf. I sure as heck have fun doing this. I hope you all enjoy listening to it. We've got great sponsors. We've always got great guests. And one thing that we for sure do here on the Tour Coach is we keep it real. None of this is scripted. This is just authentic. This is the discussions and the day-to-day interactions that we have as the dew sweepers and teaching and trying to help all of you play better golf. And look, if you enjoy our instruction and you're somebody wanting to get better, why don't you come see us and get help for your game with our world-famous retreats, which are going to be at Old Palm Golf Club in Palm Beach Gardens with my good friends Mark Hackett, Dan Terleski, Colby Tuyek, Dr. Greg Carton, and a host of many, many more. Or you can come see me at my studio in Mobile, Alabama, or at the Preserve Golf Club. And remember, everything you need to play better golf is always going to be available for you at dewsweepersgolf.com. You can find out where I am and how to be on a podcast if you go there. Enjoy this edition of the Tour Coach. Joining me here on the Tour Coach, first time, Smylie, we get like a decent number of people other than my mom and stuff listening to this. So this is kind of surprising. But I've been wanting to do this for a while. And then actually when I saw you and we're talking to you when you're up at the USAM and stuff, I was like, I need to go ahead and get Smylie on. But appreciate you taking the time to sit in. I know you got a couple off days, but good to have you.
Hell yeah, man. It's like the old days.
It is, isn't it?
Just talking shop. Whole deal.
Talking shop. We could get in later to what do you think about Brian Kelly going to LSU from Notre Dame, but we'll handle that on another one. But
yeah, either that or who you got for Monday Night Football tonight? Either or. Man,
I'm gonna be honest. I love the Bills, but it scares me because I think everybody. You know how I go against everybody.
Oh yeah,
I like going against everybody. I like going against the money, but man, Buffalo looked good first game and. Yesterday, I was in the Dome, and I'm not going to get into what I think about Jameis Winston quarterbacking right now. Man, their defense looks amazing, but we got to get a quarterback. So
I'm with you, man. It's going to be a long battle with him. He's going to win games, he's going to lose games. You know, that's how Jameis is.
I kind of think sneaky. Like I felt like I know this isn't pop, but I think Andy Dalton could have won the game yesterday if he was quarterback. I just don't think he'd have turned it over three, four times.
He's been pretty good at not turning it over for a while, and then finally it kind of came out yesterday, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did, unfortunately. So, but what I wanted to talk to you about is like, obviously, I mean, look, everybody knows you've had some struggles in the game and all of that documented. You know, I've been a fan of yours since when we started working. And, but I don't think people realize, I was talking to some juniors and college players not long ago, and I said, like, when we first started working, which I think was like senior year, it was in Sunkist in Biloxi, one of the finer practice facilities we've ever been to. You know, that was your senior year. Through the time we worked, I tell folks all the time, you were maybe one of the best students I ever had. I remember we did this little teeny thing for Golf Digest, and we talked about how you just had 3 things that you stayed on, and you were really good at that. Yeah, and I think it's a great lesson for people. Like, you were an unbelievable student. You worked your ass off. And I think it shows you how quick the game can change also for the good. Like, you can go from not playing as good as you want to having a hell of a run for 2 years. It was, and before we even get into that, like, you were a huge part of my career, been a huge part, like first person I really went out and traveled with. So it was fun to have a kind of a front row seat for that.
Yeah, I would say it was pretty new for both of us when I started getting going, but I don't think we were very surprised when kind of got out there and I started playing well. I mean, I just played so well on the web that first year, the only year I was on the web. I would say, though, that, I mean, I kept things super simple. Mm-hmm. I had a very good understanding of my golf swing and what I really needed to do. And it came down to only a couple things. And I just was really good at monitoring like the 3 or 4 simple checks. But I really only had to have 2 swing thoughts on the golf course, and they were all just me staying really aggressive. That was to get really the only thing that you had me do in the first lesson was to get my pivot through the shot. I guess the first lesson, I guess my pivot wasn't getting through, my chest wasn't getting through. So that was one thing that you definitely had me do initially. And I immediately started to see control of the club face. And then on top of that, I really felt like we just made some just simple changes. Like I understood how to work the ball left to right, right to left. And I didn't really have to change a whole lot. It just was pretty easy for me to kind of hit the shots I saw. And I think when the game gets difficult is when you're trying to hit shots and you can't, and like your mind knows like, all right, we've been hitting it this way. So then you try to change and hit it that way. And I think that's where I started getting crossed up. It's like, all right, my feels aren't matching up with what I know. And I think that's where I started getting off. But yeah, I mean, overall, we had a lot of fun doing it. I don't know that.
We did. I mean, and I think, I don't know that people understand, like when you're doing what you did and what I did, like we spent a load of time together.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I probably spent more time with you than I did Yvonne during those couple of years. Really, she's probably wishing you were back out playing and I was coaching you because I'm home more now. But but we did. I thought you did do. I thought one of the things that was brilliant about you was how simple you kept it. And the one thing I did learn from you too is you mentioned to me once, like we'd have 2 or 3, 4 different feels to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And and it would kind of rotate week to week,
right.
Go like, I remember Vegas when you won and, trying to keep the left side of your face kind of behind the ball, but still rotates. You didn't lean, and you'd have a couple of those things that you'd go to, which I thought was because I came up under Hank, as you obviously know from Birmingham, and Hank was kind of more of a hard ass where he just kept telling you the same thing over and over. Right. And I remember people when I was as an assistant that would leave him because they'd be like, that quit working. Right. And so with you, it was good because you start going, okay, it's okay to, come up with 5 different ways to do the same thing.
Yeah. And that was, as when you're on the golf course by yourself playing in a tournament, you have to be able to make on-course adjustments when things aren't correct. And the guys that are the best at that are the guys that are consistently the top players in the world and play out there the longest. They know how to fix their golf swing or whatever it is and not become a mental game along the way. They're able to just be able to trust that feel, knowing, all right, I can do this and it's going to make the golf ball for sure do this. And get it around and then go fix it after the round. And that's what I would do. For me, if things were when I was playing really well, I could work it both ways. But if I ever got off, what we just shortened up my golf swing. I just aimed a little further right. And I made sure that the club face would be looking at the ball sooner. And we would just put that stick back behind the golf ball on the target line. I would just try to get that club head coming down that target line as soon as I could, because I know that ball would start left and not right. I just have always fought that handle pull. And I think that's why those feels, like you mentioned at Vegas, work so well. Is when you keep that head back, it gives that time for you to actually shallow the golf club and get that club face looking at the golf ball sooner. And we had multiple feels like that worked. But really, I think what was so effective was, I didn't really care that, I had my feels and stuff, but golf was, I didn't really make changes. I didn't really make club equipment changes. I had the same type of bag for, 3 years. And then it's funny how golf changes. And the best advice I ever got was don't change how you got there. And next thing you know, I'm changing how I got there. When you start to throw factors like injuries and bad advice, just all those things that you don't anticipate at a young age, that you can be kind of, influenced one way or another. And I think we all look back and wish you did it different, but heck, I wouldn't change one thing for the world, because I got to spend so much time at home and I probably needed some of that. So
yeah, for sure.
It's been great. I've enjoyed it.
No. And I mean, and I think people don't realize how hard you worked, right? I was there for a big chunk of it, saw how often you work, how hard you work. And, but I also don't know that people realize how hard it is when you're that age. It's hard as a teacher too, when it's one of your first times out there, right? Like, to keep people on the tracks. And look, it's easy to be influenced and so I'm giving bad advice at times too. You're just doing the best. You're doing the best you can out there. It isn't like anybody's trying to fuck you up, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, for a really good amount of time, I felt like I had a good team around me with you and Colby and Greg. I just felt like that was such a great, team of, Greg was super chill, and yeah. I'm such a fidgety person and high wired type of guy that it was easy for me to get ahead of myself. And Greg was like the perfect calming influence of that.
Mm-hmm.
And shoot, I'd been working with Colby for before I started working with you, I think. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Colby changed my career for the better just because I was, I started really putting on some good type of muscle coming out of college. And over the next couple of years kept on getting stronger and stronger. And Colby, he's the man. We love that man. So he's the best.
Him and I and Greg, we were on a group text, and not long ago, in fact, Greg texted me a little bit ago, and I said I was taping a podcast to you. He goes, Smiley's the OG. He's the one that put us all together. And
yeah,
but like
that's the team.
But like we were all talking about it. Like, heck, you were the one that we all got together. And as you know, all of us have become such good friends. And Colby and Greg and I so much.
I think it's the coolest thing ever. It's like the team kept going. I just didn't keep going, unfortunately.
you're still with us in spirit. We still talk about it, and we still talk about all the fun shit we did with you. Just so
it was all learning on the fly. I mean, it was all new for. I think probably Greg had the most experience out of all of us at that point. He had worked with Keegan a little bit, I feel like. Curran. So like he had like a year or so on tour working with those guys, but it was all fairly, I mean, I guess Kay Wayne had gone with John Peterson and Andrew Loop a little bit, but it still was relatively new. He's not the household name that he is now, obviously.
Colby's past all of us now. Colby's past all of us.
But we knew that was coming. He was the smartest guy on the team.
There's no question. There's no question. But, and I always tell folks too, like, he was the first, like I'd been around coming up a bunch of trainers. And when you came to me, we were at Mobile and you were like, hey, I've been working with this guy. I want you to meet him. We went over to Baton Rouge. Like he was the first trainer I ever was around that like actually asked what we were working on in the golf swing and specifically just designed for you to do that was just to do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's revolutionary. It was to me at the time. And I think that's why I've included him so much because obviously I'm a big pivot teacher and I mean, hell, that's what he does, right? He gets your body moving and able to do it.
Yeah. And that's, he's the man. I love him to death. But yeah, no, that pivot stuff's fun, man. When you get it going, that club face you got a lot of control of it. And that's, I think injuries was probably the biggest part of that pivot stuff with me with my right wrist. I really felt like that's when I started having just the hand, like I just didn't trust the bottom. And for the longest time, my bottom was like the low point was in the same spot and my handle was like low. And then all those things I used to feel, I wasn't able, like I was having consistent right misses that whole fall, I guess, of 2000, that would have been 18. And I guess somewhere along the way, I just had enough of not being able to do it right. And I guess looking back on it, I probably was hampered by injuries and didn't realize it. And I think we've had that conversation before. It's like we know what if we would have given enough time, we'd probably been able to fix it. But at the time, I
think I told you. I think that the first thing when the wrist happened was the first time to me that you had that where the club face started to get a little open.
Yeah. Right. And I started rolling it back a little bit more and more as we went. And then it just caused way more issues along the way that I didn't expect. But
yeah, I mean, I think that we kind of figured out, I know you come to me to be the ultimate in the preparation, but some things have changed, Smiles. I think the face, like when that happened, the wrist injury, and I think too that you talk about like advice though, but that was also, like it's hard when you're having the success you're having. You had gone through Augusta. We'll talk about that in a minute, but like to go ahead and make yourself sit out, right, and rest. Everybody, right? I was one of them. In retrospect, everybody should have. You probably should have sat out until that wrist was completely healed. Because hell, as long as I'd worked with you, even after a couple times we got back together, your wrist still bothered you. So when you were older,
I've still fought injuries. Even when I kind of stopped playing this year, I'm still battling injuries now. Just not as much wrist as it is. I have more right knee stuff. I'm just constantly working on my body to get it feeling like it ever was. And I think I don't know if it's just getting that wear and tear that I put on my body for the years after, 2018 to 2020 were like 3 long years of just like wearing out my body. And I think I've started to feel I didn't realize it earlier this year that how just my body just wore ass out, that's when that opportunity with the broadcast stuff came up, I was like, well, might as well give it a try. I mean, not playing the way I want to, so we'll see how this goes.
You've done a hell of a job with it. It's been fun. I get more comments about your broadcast, and people are always like, people act like we don't ever talk or something. I'm like, hell, every time I see you, we stop and talk for a bit. You've done awesome with it. It was fun to watch you catch up there. You did a great job too. I get a lot of comments about, the interview you did with Ben afterwards and stuff. That's not like a fun one or easy one to do, like when you're getting real emotional, but you handled it awesome. And I mean, that's because you've been there as a player and you know what that's like.
I think that's kind of the way I've approached this whole broadcast stuff is, there's some learning curves and how to do how the business works and how you're kind of supposed to deliver things and how, you're supposed to be a little bit more concise, but I've tried to deliver it from a player's perspective. And that was one of my strengths as a player was I felt like I was a very good thinker and how to get around a golf course and understood what it's supposed to look like, how to do it. And I think that's what's made broadcasting pretty fun for me because I know what it's supposed to look like, what shots guys are supposed to hit. And I think I did the US Junior and the USAM. So it's kind of fun seeing some of these young kids come up, and I can tell of the kids who, I'm like, all right, some of these kids got it. And it's fun to see them at such a young age for guys that we're going to see on tour here in the next 5 years.
And going back to what we talked earlier about pivot, Ben is kind of, he reminded me of you when I started working with him. Obviously, club face different and all that stuff.
Definitely different.
But
he's got the thing ready to be hit. Mine was like, we got to do some work to hit it.
But once we got that thing going, I mean, it's just turn your ass as hard as you can and don't let that face go over, right?
Right. Yeah.
You could watch that and go, okay, I could see T likes that part, right?
Yeah.
That, obviously you could, you can criticize a shot here or there, anything, but he did a pretty damn nice job of controlling that club face that week.
Yeah, no, he definitely has a different, I haven't seen too many guys that you've taught that have had that type of action at the top. He's got not as much wrist cock, a little bit more of a stronger face and more of almost a rotator like Dustin, but he's able to keep his pivot going forward. I just feel like the guys you've taught have had a lot more, push draw like tendencies. To see a kid come through you with that. It's like, that's really cool to see a guy being able to hit that, cut and just hammer it. That's really strong stuff. And to be able to eliminate one side of the golf course, like Ben's able to do, I was so impressed with him as a kid, and I think he's got all the talent in the world.
And a good kid, right? You talk to him a bunch. Like, I think that's what, he's one of us. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. Like, he likes to delete beers. He likes to have a couple beers, right? Like, he's he's just a good dude. I enjoy hanging out with him. So, but that part of that too is development. You always looking back at the what ifs. I've obviously learned a bunch in the last however many years. So you're like, maybe if I knew what I knew now when Smylie started with struggling, you're like, would you been able to help him better, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always what ifs in this game, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I wouldn't have done anything different. I wish at the time maybe I would have, but looking back, it's been, I do. There's part of me that does miss playing on tour, but there's just so many life lessons I learned along the way that helped me become the person I am today, that who knows if that would have happened without those years. If you don't ever go through years of struggle, you don't really realize how good you had it when it was good. So And that's the truth of it. And Greg always said it best is that confidence can come back in an instant. And and sometimes that's false hope for a golfer, because you're like, all right, maybe it's that shot's going to carry over, but golf can be finicky, and sometimes it just takes a lot of reps to be able to play on tour for a living. But Greg always had those good one-liners, though.
Oh, he does. He's still got it too. But we do talk all the time about how that's how all of us got together. So much of what I do is with young players. I think I've spent a bunch of time out there, and I've had some great relationships and some success with guys that have played a bunch. But I think still the most fun for me is the guys like you and, the guys I've been fortunate enough to coach through college and come into play. It's fun, right? You watch them grow up. And so if you were, and you were always so gracious. I remember the time you came to Panama City after the Sharks shootout and hung out with those juniors and all of that, right? You were always so great talking to those juniors. If you were sitting with a group of my young players now and you were talking about the stuff that you, if you could tell them something to make sure they do, or to make sure that they got better at, or stuff to learn from your experience, what would you share?
For me, I would say to have a plan, and to be able just to work that plan. And in today's society, it's so easy to look around and just see what other people are doing. And some people's success is not the success you're going to have at an early stage. Everybody has their own way of how they kind of work through this game of golf. Some people, it takes them a lot longer for their plan to be successful. And that's just the truth of it. And it takes years and years of practice for folks that it takes to, kind of get over the hump. But that's just today's society. You want to see results instantly. And it's easy as a parent. It's easy as a player to want to just change around a bunch, but really it's find somebody that can give you time. You need to have a coach that can invest himself in you to be able to work that plan and kind of be able to have those checkups, and someone that you can trust. It's so, I would say you've probably seen it a bunch now, than more so in the last 5 years, and maybe not, but I would assume that parents now are just see what everybody does, and they just keep trying to change and change and change. But that just isn't good for a kid. They really need to stick. They need, a couple of years of working that plan. And maybe if that doesn't work, you can say, okay, well, we did exactly what we were supposed to. You worked your butt off, and maybe this isn't the right fit. Yeah. But as far as just development goes, working a plan and sticking to it, and then just working your tail off, really. I mean, you're not going to become really good without hard work and then the right information.
Yeah, I love the work of the plan. And you're right. I think I guess a lot of it's because of social media, because everybody can put stuff up every day. And I don't think it's any different than being a high school girl or whatever, feeling pressured from everybody only puts their good stuff up, right? Right.
I never seen anybody miss a shot on Instagram.
No. And Greg, you'll love this. Greg and I were talking one day. We were talking about somebody just kept posting when a kid plays good or a guy wins and whatever. And Greg goes I want to post hey, I just had 5 guys miss the cut this week. I'm feeling pretty shitty, right? Because nobody ever does it, right? They think,
that's just people like to show the kind of their best selves on social media, and that's it's fine. And I think so much now these younger kids feel connected to the PGA Tour, whatever tour you follow, but they feel they're connected to these players, and they see what they do, and they see how much success they have, and they compare themselves to them, which isn't healthy. If I would have been comparing myself to in college, let's say to one of your best students of all time, Bobby, if I was comparing myself to him at that time, it would have been bad for me, because he still is a world beater in my mind, one of the best players I've ever played with. But, it's just sticking to that plan. I think that's, you've had students that have done it. For instance, a guy like Tom Lovelady is one of the best at, he's had his ups and downs, but he's been able to stick to exactly every time I've played with him, he's been working on the same thing.
Right.
I've never seen him be like, yeah, I'm really trying to do this or that. I mean, and that's just kudos to obviously a kid that knows what he does well, and then getting good information from his coach yourself to kind of work that plan.
And he's one of those rare, like I think it's rare nowadays for like when guys have a year or two where they don't play good,
right?
To not automatically just say, I got to go do something different. Right.
Yeah.
And another one of those, somebody, real well, Rick Lane, Rick, really good last Monday and, getting 2 Corn Ferry finals. But like year before, like I could easily say like, man, we didn't have much like it. We didn't maybe do as well. But like, that the examples of those people are fewer and farther between than they used to be. And I do think that's a lot of social media, because I think you see everybody's successes and you see coaches from everywhere. You got access to so much stuff that, let's face it, when you and I started working, there was some social media, but it wasn't anywhere near like
that. It was nothing like it is.
You were
today.
Mr. Carter K. You were Mr. Carter K.
Yeah, I know. Our social media was funny hashtags that we didn't even understand.
Right, exactly. Huh?
It's changed, that's for sure, and we've it's come a long way with this social media stuff, and I can't start to put it in words now what it's like. It's too much.
It's a lot.
I try to stay off my phone, but now with the media gig, I kind of have to stay on my phone and follow stuff a lot more and be more active. So
talk a little bit about the media. Like, it seems like you really like it. It really does. It seems like you're enjoying. First time, like when I saw you at the AM was the first time I saw you where you just didn't look like worn out in a long time. And I mean that in a good way. Like, right?
I think when I got to Southern Hills for the PGA, it was the first time it felt like nobody was like on top of my back. Like there was no monkey on my back. It was just like, finally, just like there's nobody running behind me. So I felt free. I felt like myself, been able to enjoy the game again, playing and broadcasting. I haven't been playing probably since about April. It wasn't really just, I said like, hey, I'm not playing anymore. It was just, this broadcast stuff came up and I've really have enjoyed it. And I feel like I kind of can pursue this for a little while, not ever ruling out not playing again, but this stuff right now, it's just so fun, and playing golf at home, enjoying the game, not really caring what I shoot or where I hit it. I've started to play. It's shocking how that works. You start to play better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just been playing some outings here and there, finally driving it pretty well. I've always been a good putter and a good chipper and wedge player. It's been more just the mental, physical grind of trying to do too much. And it's funny, just stepping away from the game, what that will do for just your overall just confidence, I guess.
Yeah. That was the first thing. I came home and Yvonne was like, she had said, asked if I saw you, because she was watching the coverage and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, we talked. I said, man, like, that's the first thing I said, like, you look the happiest I've seen you in years. Really did. Like, when I told her, I was like, I was happy for that. Because like, you just always seemed like you had the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't realize it when you're going through it. You kind of just, I think professional golfers, you're kind of trained to try to be invincible, and I think for myself, I didn't realize at the time how stressed I was with trying to, be the perfect golfer to get back to where I wanted to be, and just stepping away from the game. And this opportunity has just been so good for me to really put myself around the best players in the world again, and watching them play and see what they struggle with, but also be like, wow, okay, this is why they're a top player in the world. Yeah. That's like, that's fun to see too. But it's been really fun for me. I've enjoyed it.
Last question, then I'll let you go, because I need another beer too. So, so when you look at the best player, I always like to ask folks that are up close, when you look at the best players in the world and you're out there and you were one of the best at a time, like, what are the things that they do different and better than the ones that don't quite get there? Because we all know, like, guys bounce back and forth, and also like guys that were great at college or young people coming up. What is it that they do so much better?
So I'll group in so a lot of the guys I've watched this year. I've watched Cameron Smith play a bunch of golf. I've watched Scotty Scheffler play a bunch, Rory. And from those guys, like what I saw with them, they all did everything well, but there were certain things in certain shots or categories of their games that they were just, I was like, wow, I can't do that. And with Cameron Smith, it was always his putting. It was, to me, I was just, and then he was a much better ball striker than I thought he was.
Really?
His long iron game was incredible. And same goes with Will Zalatoris. I couldn't believe that people said he's a bad putter. All I did was watch him.
He's way better than people think.
Yeah. I think he was an incredible ball striker. He can hit shots that my eye sees, that he's able to pull off pretty consistently. And the guys that just couldn't quite get over the hump, or they do things well and they're just a little off. But to me, it wasn't that as far off as they think. For instance, a guy like Brooks Koepka, he wasn't hitting it very well at the U.S. Open, but to me, he was just a little off. And it's funny how fickle the game is that he probably felt so lost in what he was trying to do with his golf swing. But to me, it just looked, and that's the hardest thing about being a coach, I imagine, is like, it doesn't look as bad as what the player feels like it looks. Mm-hmm. And with a guy like Brooks, who I've
told you that before.
Yeah, right. It's like, you're like, oh, it didn't look too bad. It's like, well, it feels terrible. Well, I mean, That's probably what's going on with a lot of players. And I saw that with Brooks and guys like Rory. I felt like his driving abilities, and obviously everybody knows how good that is, but he can hit a short iron so high. And I was shocked at how good of Scotty Scheffler was with shaping the golf ball to where it looked like everything was straight. He held it up the wind and high and low, and he made every golf ball look like it was flying straight, which is so hard to do. And that was, just an example of all of those guys I just kind of mentioned, but it's fun to watch. And composure wise, you can tell with a major champion who the guys are and who the caddies are that have the best team around them to be able to kind of get over the hump, because it's the line between winning a major championship and finishing 20th is it's really a little bit of luck and just the right balance and the right body language. And you can watch guys' body language at major championships and see who the guys are that are ready and composed to win versus the guys who aren't. And I could see that from watching. So I felt like body language, and then obviously guys have certain God-given gifts that they have that were noticeable that separates them from the next guy.
Awesome stuff. Smylie, this was fun. Fun for me to sit and kind of reminisce a little, catch up, man. Keep doing all the awesome stuff on TV. It was fun watching. Anytime you're up here in Birmingham, we need to go tee it up at TPC Highlands. I feel like that's our best spot to go. I'm coming up for Abby's wedding in November, and me and Wade Hamilton are playing at Vestavia the morning before the wedding. It's going to be in your whole backyard.
All right. Well, text me when you're up here, and I'll come out and say what's up. We'll go play some.
Perfect. That sounds good. Thanks for sitting in. Hopefully we get somebody else out there you can follow around sometime soon.
Heck yeah. Let's do it.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Tour Coach. I want to take a minute and thank Cordy Walker and Golf Science Lab, as well as my sponsors Srixon, Buick, Bushnell, and Vineyard Vines for helping make all of this possible and helping me share my insights with you. If you like what you've heard, why don't you check out more on the Dew Sweepers channel on YouTube, as well as the Dew Sweeper on Instagram, or go to dewsweepersgolf.com to find out more about my teaching, my travels, and where you can find out more about me.